Welcome to the Brownsville Minute, a community-conscious conversation and a platform that provides information, wellness, love, and unity all on a digital platform. And our goal is to try to make sure that our community residents are informed, conscious, and that we are connecting the dots on a virtual platform. The Brownsville Minute is designed for everyone. Please join us with the Brownsville Minute. Well, hey there, good people. I hope that you are doing wonderful. Guess what? We are bringing back the Brownsville Minute with not just me. I'm bringing on my squad of ambassadors who are going to share a youth-led conversation that I'm sure that you want to hear. The Brownsville Minute is a space where we want to encourage conversations. We want to support the needs of our community in a different platform, in a space where we can commune both virtually and in person when the time permits. But we are providing information, love, and unity all in this space that we are sharing with you. And today is no exception. But guess what? You are not going to see any of this anymore, right? Because it is an opportunity for us to support our youth ambassadors in what they want to bring to the table, to hear their voice, and to provide an opportunity for them to tell their stories their way. And today is no exception. I have Tyrone McDuffie, who is going to be having an engaging conversation with a few of his friends that he brought along for the conversation. Tyrone is going to share information about what mental health looks like, what being single looks like, because I know that the space of being single can sometimes be daunting. Sometimes it could be uncertain, but on the flip side, it does allow for you to pursue the person and the happiness in which you want to bring to the table. So enough for me. I am going to welcome to the table my very, very spunky new friend, right? Tyrone McDuffie. But I'm also going to have my new other friends come to the table as well, Alex and also Julian as well. So I'm going to just bring them to the table because guess what? I have new friends and I'm going to bring new friends. And so, hey, hello, hello.
Hey.
How are
Welcome to the new friends.
Glad
Hi, everybody.
to be here.
Oh, she going already. Okay.
Hey.
All right, we're gonna get straight into it. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good
My name's Tyrone.
morning.
Well, you don't need the script. Y'all know my name's Tyrone McDuffie. Y'all know that. Good to see y'all. Welcome to my first episode on the Brownsville Minute. And today we're going to talk about some topics that's important to me, such as like mental health and the pursuit of happiness while being single. I want to thank y'all for coming. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Julian, for coming. And I'm ready to get into. Oh, thank you, Ms. Pierce, for being in the background. And if y'all want to say something, y'all could. But before I do want to say that this is a conversation. I want everyone to feel comfortable, and I want everyone to respect everybody's opinion. If anyone ever gets uncomfortable, just type it in the chat. Let me know so we get that situated. We don't have to speak on something that you don't want to talk about. Just let me know. What's first on our agenda is mental health. And, okay. To be honest, I really heard about mental health during quarantine and like first getting out of quarantine. I'll be honest, I wasn't very like educated on the topic beforehand because I really like didn't hear it a lot. So I also kind of feel like it kind of like went mainstream after quarantine, and it helped a lot of people look into themselves and see what was wrong with their mindsets and everything. How y'all feel about that? When did y'all hear about mental health?
I definitely agree with you. I think mental health has been something that's really come more into mainstream media and has become more of a focal point. And I think that is really just because of what happened during quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it was never there because I think it always has been there, but I definitely agree with you that there's like laser beams on it, right? We're all so hyper aware and so conscious of mental health, and we're having conversations centered around mental health and taking time to invest in our own mental health, which, I mean, we're here talking about it right now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely the
real.
same thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
on,
it's
Julian.
definitely the same thing for me. Like before the whole pandemic, like I didn't really hear about it, but ever since the pandemic has become more like prevalent and you start to hear like more people talking about it. And I think it's a good thing because like people didn't really understand before, and now that people understand they could get the like help and resources that they need with a lot of the like issues that they were struggling with beforehand, like before the pandemic. So I definitely think, yeah, it's become more mainstream, but in a good way.
So yeah, it's almost like the silver lining of the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Like we try to like optimistically find the good in a bad situation. And I think the pandemic forced so many people to have to confront issues within themselves that maybe had we not been quarantined for a year and a half, people might have just continued to go on their way. So in a lot of ways, it brought this like issue kind of to a head, which is a good way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah, let's always try to see the positive in it. Okay, so have you guys, if you want to share, have you guys ever like experienced mental health problems, or just something that made you stop and think where it involved your mind? Maybe necessarily not like a huge mental illness, but just a mental problem you went through.
I definitely think like for me, especially since I'm like applying to college and stuff, I definitely feel like I've like experienced burnout. And I think a lot of students, not even when just applying to college, but like during the school year, especially coming out of the pandemic, like burnout was a thing. And yeah, I think that was the like just dealing with stress and like finding ways to take time for myself and just like learning myself was just another thing, like my mental health, because before I didn't like everything was like sort of easy for me, I would say. And then soon as like I hit my junior year and like now that I'm going to my senior year, a lot of things like, okay, you have to get on top of your homework, you have to get on top of writing essays and stuff. So I definitely like have to learn how I deal with like managing stress and trying to avoid burnout. And like I think like understanding my mental health, my personal mental health was like a big play in that. And it definitely has helped me.
And I want to applaud you for that because I feel like you're very hard on yourself about school, and I see like where the burnout can come. And not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I feel like you take it very serious, and I feel like that's gonna help you in the long run. When applying to colleges, it's gonna help you because I see how serious you are about essays, about going over essays, making sure you go to SAT prep, and just trying to get the best thing for you. And I think that's really gonna help you in the future.
Thank you.
Burnout's real.
Right. Have you experienced burnout, Miss Laredo?
Have I experienced burnout? Maybe not burnout. Maybe more like similar to what Julian's saying, but I have a tendency to pile a lot on my plate. And because I'm like, I like to work, I like to take on projects in my career, in my personal life.
Yeah.
And sometimes I put too much on my plate at once. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? There's 100 things on this plate and I can literally only do 5 of them. So part of it maybe isn't like really dealing with burnout, but it's learning how to just like take a breath and take a step back and not try to pile on so many things at once, because that can lead to anxiety, and anxiety can be crippling. So for me, I think more just taking one thing at a time and being patient with myself, learning how to be patient. Like if it doesn't all get done in a day, that's okay. There's time, right? Like I'll get that next thing done when time permits, but you can't tackle 100 things at the same time. And you can try, but then you just, similar to Julian saying burnout, maybe you feel anxiety or you feel overwhelmed or whatever the emotion is. But so it's definitely one thing for me.
And I can see that in you. Like while in advisory, you always wanted to keep it on the go, have something new for us, and I just want to say thank you for that, because I felt like it helped us bond, and it helped us go forward. Because like when you go to advisory, some people may not take it serious, but I think we kind of like built something in advisory with ourselves by doing those activities and doing stuff together. We're making like advisory a fun place and something that you want to do.
Yeah, you got to invest in community if you want to create it.
Invest in the people around you.
Exactly.
Definitely. Okay. I'm trying to think about some mental health problems I face. I feel like during quarantine, some mental health problems that I faced was just feeling like it was just something new that I necessarily wasn't used to with the school and everything. And I feel like I don't think it was necessarily like a huge burnout, but I felt like very tired, even though I feel like I wasn't doing much because we were trapped in a house. And I'll be honest, I wasn't doing much, but the school, when going to school and showing up to classes and being virtual, it honestly was something that was very hard for me, because I can honestly say like I didn't learn much. I feel like I'm a very much hands-on person, and I gotta do it. I gotta see it, and then I can better myself at it. And being behind the screen, it kind of made it where like, oh, I did it, but like, oh, I used online, or I asked someone to send it to me. So I just feel like during that time, it just helped me figure out who I am, what I like to do, and also just recognize that it's different things in the world, and you're gonna go through them, and you're gonna try it. You may not like it, and you may like it.
It's kind of easy to pick up bad habits.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that scary? Like I picked up bad habits, and it's like then when quarantine was quote over, it's like you have to unlearn all the things that you know, to your point of just like, oh yeah, I just like, I'll Google it, I'll figure it out. And it's like, becomes kind of easy to take the easy way out. And then when real life, so to speak, hits you again, it's like, oh wait, I gotta like not do things that way. So it's like this whole like unlearning process. That's kind of
That was huge. That definitely was huge. And then like me, after quarantine, when I went back to school, I was in a whole new environment, in a whole new state, and it was a lot. And I feel like I dealt with some mental problems there. Like when I first moved, I feel like I was like very unhappy, and I kept like saying like, oh, I want to leave. I don't want to be here, and because it was very uncomfortable for me. It was just like a new place.
Do you think the transition for you leaving was worse or harder for you than once you got there? Like what was harder, leaving or adjusting?
Well, the leaving, I feel like the leaving was like, because it was quick. It was like I left and then I'm just here, and now you got to start school and you got to start work. So I feel like it was when I got there, because I kind of wasn't like as well known, and like I didn't have a lot of friends, and it's like a much bigger school environment. Because I feel like with Mecca, it was a lot of kids, but it was much smaller compared to the high school that I went to now, and I kind of had to adjust with that, having like to see who's comfortable with you, who you talk to, who you don't talk to, what do you do, and it was a lot, and I cried. It was a lot. It was a lot. I feel myself getting a little sad about it right now,
Yeah,
but
but
from
you know what? I
that,
think it's good that you went through that because it gave you tools for later in life when you have to deal with transitions. You know, you went through like a big transitional stage in your life, and you had to deal with stuff head on. So when you're faced with those obstacles later in life, I feel just because you're like a learner, you'll be like, oh wait, I've kind of done this.
Yeah.
I've felt this before. I have these things in my toolbox. Like I'll be able to cope with it better than maybe some people.
Yes, at the end, I feel like it was so much better. Like after it's all done, like now, I feel like if that was to happen again, and I feel like it's kind of happening again while I'm going to college, I definitely feel like I'm ready for it. And it's not something that I'm necessarily scared of anymore, because when I first moved, I was like very scared, because that was my like first time moving from like a different apartment, moved to a different house, different school. Like from my whole pre-K to middle school, all the way up into 8th grade, I went to one school, and then I just went to Mecca. So through my life, I only been in 2 schools and one apartment, and then moving to a whole new like house and a whole new school. It was a lot, but after it's done, I feel much better about it. But I won't lie, it was some days when I was like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to be here, and I want to go home. And now I feel like my home is there now. I kind of got used to it. I got friends. I got a job. I got school, and it's something that I came to cope with, and I'm happy about the end. Okay. Oh, what's the next question? Okay, so have you guys experienced someone around you going through mental health problems? And if so, did you do anything to try to help them with that?
I have, like one of my best friend has, and I won't put all her business out there, but
Mhm.
she definitely like had a rough period for like 1 to 1.5 years, and I tried mostly everything, but it's important to let them go through that period. Don't try like also try to keep them happy, but don't like pressure them. If they want to stay in the house all day, let them stay in the house all day. If they don't want to talk, then like if they don't want to talk to you, then leave it. Just leave it be. But also like try to like you have to put their emotions first and try not to be selfish, because that sometimes it could feel like, well, damn, like I'm trying to help you not working with me and stuff like that, so you kind of get frustrated. But at the end of the day, you have to like understand like they're going through a lot of emotions right now. They don't know exactly how to feel. They don't know how to control their emotions, and you just have to say like in the end it'll all be all right. And when they come out of it, they'll definitely recognize what you have done for them. And she definitely like tells me like we hang out a lot and stuff like that, and it's definitely got better. And I think we also like know each other way more than we what we did. Like we learned how to deal and navigate with each other. So our friendship has definitely gotten stronger and closer. And I think like a lot of people don't know how to understand their friends' emotions, because yeah, you could say, oh, we're friends, but are do you know how to deal with them when they're having a long period of when they just want to shut down, they don't want to do anything? Do you know how to maintain that friendship when things are getting rough and stuff like that? So I definitely have helped, just doing their favorite things, whether it's gaming virtually, and this was during the quarantine period, so it's
Mhm.
definitely harder. um so like I said, like just whether it's just hopping on a FaceTime call, playing our favorite games, and not talking about the situation can also help a lot, because you don't always want to bring it up every time you see them. Like
Mhm.
just that's the one thing that they're trying to escape. That's why they're sad in the first place. So I think I definitely learned how to help people going through like mental health issues, and those are some of the things that I did.
And I feel like that can be like uncomfortable going through that experience with a friend. But I feel like once you come out of it, you got to see like that friend all around, all much more about them, not just all like the glitz and glam of a friendship. You kind of got to see that bad. And I feel like sometimes you may need that because no one's going to be glitz and glam 100% of the time.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Okay. So now we can talk about the pursuit of happiness while being single. Okay, what's my first question? Are any of you guys single?
I am.
Nope.
Loretta, we know you. We see the bra. Oh my! So where did you guys go for the honeymoon?
We went down to Mexico, and it was really, really beautiful. It was really nice.
It was nice.
But you know what? Just because I'm a married person, that's a weird thing to say now. I'm a married person. I think I'm actually happy you asked me to be here to talk about the pursuit of happiness, because I think one tip, maybe I could call it, for just successful relationships, right? Whether you're married or you're engaged or you're just dating, is you have to remember how to like have a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
And I think part of when people struggle when they're single, from friends that I've seen, is they don't know how to have that relationship with themselves. And so what you find is a lot of young people rushing to just get into a relationship and settling for a person that doesn't make them happy, or trying to change a person to make them the person that they want them to be, because they're so afraid to just be alone with themselves. And I've been through, a lot of relationships in 30 plus years of my life. And I think I finally found the person I'm supposed to be with, because throughout those relationships and those breakups, I learned how to be with myself. And I learned how to be comfortable with that time that you spend with yourself alone, right? And what does that look like? Maybe that looks like investing in your hobbies. Maybe it looks like doing things that are active, and maybe it looks like reading a book or taking up a class or whatever it is. And I think when you get married and when you get into a relationship or you're dating, you don't want to lose those things.
Yeah.
Right. It's important. My husband and I both have things that we are passionate about together, but we have things that we're passionate about separately.
Yeah.
And what makes the relationship healthy is that we support each other doing those things independently. My husband loves to golf. He loves to go out and golf with his friends, and he'll do that for like 10 hours and I won't see him and I don't talk to him, and I'm not like, what are you doing? I'm just like, good. You're taking time to invest in something that makes you happy independently of me. And I think you need that as a person. Like, you're still your own person, whether you're married to someone or you're not. You can't forget about that.
Yeah, I feel like it's good to not like rely on your partner to be like your only friend. I feel like your partner shouldn't be your only friend. You should be able to have a life outside of your partner, and whatever your partner adds is like extra, but an extra that you needed and an extra that you wanted. Yeah. So when people say like they're single, I feel like you can be single romantically, but I feel like having relationships outside of that is okay, and that can be enough at a moment. And also knowing how to be in love with yourself, being a friend to yourself, doing things by yourself, because I feel like you learn so much more about yourself, and it makes it way easier when you find a partner, because it's like, I'm good. If you need to do something by yourself independently, I'm good to be independently at this moment while you do that.
I love that you said you gotta you gotta love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You can't love anybody until you look in the mirror and you're like, you're a bad bitch, I love you.
Yeah. I'm so happy for you, Greta. You seem happy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You seem happy.
I also feel like you have to be at a point in your life where they won't be a distraction. Like, don't let, like, if you're single and things are going good for you, even though you might want to, I might want a boyfriend or girlfriend or stuff like that. But don't let it be a distraction. Like, don't let it take up your mental 24/7, because even like myself, I went through those periods like, oh, I want to find a girlfriend and stuff like that. It would be like on my mind 24/7, and then I would lose sight of the things that I was actually working towards, like school, like getting internships, like even like going outside, hanging out with my other friends, like playing games and stuff, like because I was so focused on something, like finding somebody else when I should have been focused on myself and making sure that like I was good first, like not trying to sound selfish, but you don't want to go in. I feel like I wouldn't go into a relationship where I don't feel it fully understand myself and make sure that I'm good, because I feel like that's a burden on somebody else. Then as soon as you get into a relationship, you're like, oh well, you're complaining 24/7 because you didn't do what you had to do when you were single. So I just feel like making sure that the person that you're in a relationship isn't a distraction. Just like, yeah, just making sure you're like not distracted. That's a big thing for me, at least.
Selfish, that word has such a bad connotation, but honestly, sometimes you have to be selfish.
You have to be selfish.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay.
Mhm.
Selfishly take care of what you need to take care of. That's okay. It happens. Yeah, but no, Julian, I think like when you said that, it's just like because then you find yourself in a relationship where you're just complaining or unhappy, and maybe you start to blame the other person because you didn't get done the stuff that you needed to get done.
I see it all the time. I see it all the time in like high school. Like I understand like high schoolers are not going to be the most accomplished, like they're not the most mature people in the world. Like we're teenagers, like we're still learning. But I think a lot of us are like pressured by society to like, oh, find somebody. Oh, you need a girlfriend or you need a boyfriend. Like that's not the case. And a lot of us don't understand, like we fully don't even understand ourselves. So, and we're working, we're not in a, how do you say it? Like we're not in a period of our life. Yeah, it's like there's always changes. Like, well, you're only in high school for 4 years and you're going to college, and a lot of the times you're going away for college, so you might not even be with the person. So it's just like a lot of changes that are happening. And like I said, especially now, like during this period of my life when I'm transitioning between high school and college, I think it's very important not to be distracted. But it's also like you could have friends, like you don't necessarily need a significant other. Like also invest in those friendships that you have, because I feel like any relationship that you have to, it can't be distracting. Like you have to set boundaries, you have to just learn yourself, and you have to let those people know. And I think through friendships you can mature, and then after like you understand how to be a good friend, then you could go on to being like a significant other, and getting to your point, like being a wife or a husband. Like I think that's, at least for me, that's how
you have to be friends first. If you can't be friends at the end,
just jump in.
Like no hope. I also think it's harder for the generation under me, your guys' generation coming up. And I don't want to make this about social media, but I think social media and technology and the internet, like it wasn't as prevalent when I was growing up. Like granted, we had flip phones, right? But we didn't have like Instagram and Snapchat. And I think that to some degree puts a lot of pressure on young people to live a certain lifestyle and appear a certain way. I can't imagine. I can't even wrap my head around it, because you all see these people and these celebrities and these perfect lives that come up, and you're like, well, if I don't have that, then I haven't fulfilled what I should, right? I'm not as good as I could be. I'm not good compared to other people. You guys are constantly, not you guys, but like your generation is constantly like comparing what your happiness is to other people's happiness.
Because I feel like someone else's happiness won't necessarily be your happiness. And I do feel like society plays like a huge role, not just society only, but like you said, social media and like the people around you, where like you feel like you're being pressured to be in a relationship because that's like a mandatory requirement of being like a human.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not right. I feel like it's good if you do have a partner, but it's okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't have a partner right now. And it's something that you're gonna get eventually. I feel like don't let anyone pressure you to be in a relationship. Don't feel like, oh, I have to have a boyfriend now, I have to have a girlfriend now, because they say, oh, you're at an age that you should have. But I feel like it's a different journey for everybody, and I definitely feel like we'll all reach a point where when we want to be in a relationship and we're ready to be in a relationship, that we'll get into one. Mm-hmm. That's good. Okay, hold on, another question. Me happy to. Okay, so a question that I have. Well, Liberator's married. Julian, how do you envision your life in 10 years?
Okay, so I'm gonna do the first 5 years, and I'm gonna do the next 5 years because
Okay.
I like to go in 5 year periods. So the first 5 years, I'll be like graduating high school. I'll be graduating college, probably with a degree in finance or a minor in computer science, and hopefully getting my first job offer. And then 5 years after that, I'll probably have some seniority position, like a senior position in the companies that I hope to work for in the future. Or yeah, that will most likely like what I want to do, unless I go to like a startup and things change. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like the next 10 years, like my career will be solidified. And I still plan to live in New York. I don't think I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, but probably still in New York, probably working in finance, probably. Um, but when I say finance, I also mean like helping other people. So like probably working with minority-owned startups to get funding that they usually won't receive due to racism and the power dynamic in that industry. Um, like yeah, I hope to work with like climate-solving startups and stuff like that. So in New York, yeah, that's where I see myself in the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
I
I feel
think
like that's good because I feel like a lot of people, they say, oh, like, I see myself married and I see myself in this big relationship. And I feel like it's kind of good where you say, within this next time period, like, you can, like, a relationship can happen within that time period, but it's not
yeah,
something big where, like, as, like, your career where you're like, oh, within the next 5 years, I see myself at this point in my career. And I feel like a lot of people focus, like a lot of people, some people would say, oh, I see myself married, I see myself in like this relationship. And I think it's kind of good where you're saying like, I see myself here, me personally, and not focusing necessarily on a relationship.
yeah.
Laredo, coming out of high school, when did you feel that you were going to get married?
I don't know. I don't think I ever thought about it. I think
Ever
I
had
always thought about my career first. I've always
a
been like
career
a
first?
career oriented person. I never like, I don't know, I guess maybe it's like genderist to say, well, you know, most girls when they're little, they dream about getting married. Not to say I didn't, but I was always kind of like, who am I going to be? What's my career going to be? What am I going to be? What's my purpose? So I don't know if I ever really thought about like, I don't know. I didn't think about getting married in high school.
Yeah, married in high school.
No, I just thought it was like, how am I going to make money? What's my career going to be? How am I
Right.
going to like climb to the top? That's always kind of been my MO. And even now, both my husband and I are both very career driven people. And like we've said, like the conversation about like kids and a house, like all of that doesn't happen until like we're where we want to be in our careers. And I think that's really important when you focus on like who you want to be and you get to that prime spot, and then the other things can kind of fall into place. But it's backwards for some people. Some people are like, I have to get married and have a kid right away. And that's fine.
Yeah, not a
It's just
problem with it.
different. No, it's just different priorities and different ways to like go about life. And they're both fine. There's nothing wrong with either of them. It's just.
And I feel like what you said is true. And I feel like it's good because I feel like you're kind of, while you're planning out your life in your future, you're not like affecting yourself now. And I feel like that's in a way you're working on your own mental health, because some people can say like, oh, I want this, and they try to get it all and they affect themselves mentally, not knowing the impact of like all these things that they're trying to achieve, that they affect themselves mentally and they're not necessarily happy with themselves.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like, that's kind of good. Like you're planning it out. Like, I want to do this. I want to get to this point in my career or my life. And then I want to start working on that.
Yeah. You got to make priorities and you have to know yourself enough. Like we kind of talked about that before, and have that good relationship and love yourself and be selfish when you need to. Because then you can really invest in like what your priorities are. And maybe every 5 years, as Julian said, maybe every 5 years you reorder those priorities, or you get rid of one and you add another. But you can't do that unless you really know who you are and you're loving who you are, right?
Yes, that's something. It's all about the mental. You gotta love yourself. And I feel like loving yourself plays a good role in your mental health because it all ties together.
Yeah.
You gotta love yourself.
And the way I see it, right, is like in those 10 years when I get to the positions that I want to get into my career, hopefully the person that I do meet is in the same mental space and like the space that I'm in. So it'll be a lot easier instead of me just saying, oh, I'm gonna find somebody before that, but we're not where we both want to be. I would say like we don't have the same, like we don't necessarily have to have the same priorities, but in general, like I would like to have somebody who's like has the same type of mindset and
done the work
thinking
on
that
themselves.
And I feel like
like,
taken. You guys will meet each other on that journey, on that same journey to the top. You'll meet somebody, and that's good. Well, that's about our time. We've been good for 37 minutes. I think we had a good convo.
It was great.
I feel like I had fun. I definitely do feel more comfortable. I would do this again.
Good.
How do you guys feel about it?
Feel great.
Nice.
You're natural.
Yeah, I would do this again.
Hey.
You better do it again.
I am. And I feel like I'm ready for our next one.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and I want to thank you all for, really supporting this process. Have been backstage in awe because this conversation was really, really good. I took some notes and to provide some tips throughout the process. And, during the first set of questions, you all described about really understanding how do you support someone through their mental health challenge, right? And so some of the key notes that I took out is how to understand and support yourself and your friends and families when they're in a temporary crisis. Because what I've come to learn, I've been on this earth for 40 something ish years, right? And the reality is that sometimes we all go through our challenges. It's a matter of understanding how we get support, how do we get external, both internal, learning how to work through it, and also getting external support. But it's something that Julian mentioned is understanding how to give space to check in often and show unconditional love and support through that process, because there are times that was mentioned that you just want to be by yourself to try to wrestle through whatever the challenge that you may be experiencing at that time. And the key thing that's always been helpful for me is that I have friends who kind of understand that, but they keep applying pressure. They don't leave me alone. They call, they text, and they do it in cycles and intervals. Because there are times that I just disappear. They cuss me out. They do pull-ups as well. Like they come check on me. But it's really important that they understand that each, this situations that we go through, they are temporary, but give space, check in often, show unconditional love and support, and also, have the courage to seek professional help when necessary. That is not a taboo. Having external support to help us to navigate, because sometimes telling your friends may not be always, and just getting professional help may be the other key in helping you to navigate through your challenge. The other thing that I took note was during the segment where you talked about, relationships. Learning to love and understanding yourself was something that came up and was elevated during the conversation. Get a hobby for yourself, right? If you're in a relationship, that you should not be relying specifically on your significant other to fulfill your time, because each of us are on this space, I believe, for a purpose, and it is our purpose, and it is our responsibility to dig deep into ourselves to understand our gifts and talents. It's not for the other person to manage. Being selfish is not a bad word. I totally agree about that, because sometimes you're like, oh, why you not paying? You're being selfish. And it's something where, I've always heard over time that if your cup is not full, you can't give from an empty cup. It's just not realistic. You have to take care of yourself, and self-care is not just a buzzword. It's not optional if we are to improve on who we are. And I also heard be in a relationship with yourself, right? Sometimes, and I can remember there was a time and space where I was single, really, really single, and I was totally by myself. And at points in times it was very scary. But during that time, I perceived a lot more flexibility to get up, eat, sleep, do what I want, pursue career or not, pursue a person or not, dress how I want to dress, whatever it was within that time of space. That was the person that I was developing into becoming during that specific time, right? So, as also was mentioned, you go through phases. So I like how Julian broke down time frames in 5 years, right? Instead of 10 years, like breaking it down, because, we all go through phases, right? Because we are ever evolving humans, right? And so don't think that the person that you were in high school, that you're going to continue to be that person when you are 46, unless you are not about self-improvement, then that's on you. Um, the other thing that I listen to is that the pursuit of happiness is internal first, right? So throughout this conversation, I heard very distinct experience about, as you are pursuing happiness, that it comes from within. You cannot think that it's going to come from any place else, which leads to also building relationships off of social media, right? I come from the space and time where social media was not this intense, right? It is very intense, but you have to have relationships, clear relationships off of social media. Don't be pressured by social media influences or those societal pressures that you have to be in a relationship, that you have to be married. They also forget that you have to be yourself, right? Throughout this whole process. So go with your internal time, space, and gut, right? Go with what makes you feel best, and in a time and space, get experience, learn life, and create the life that you want and that you were purpose to live. So I got all of that. And I hope that you all got as much as I did as I was watching backstage. See, I get to see all the good stuff, right? You have the opportunity to now experience the thoughts, the space, and sharing the gifts of these three wonderful individuals. So I'm very grateful that you had the courage to do this, Tyrone. I am so glad that you have experienced this. You're the first one. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And so I look forward to seeing you again, working
Hmm.
with you in the future. And Julian, I think you should connect with me offline, because I have some people that you should connect with, especially in the financial services space. So I want to thank you all. Alex, thank
So
you so
much.
much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having me.
So
also.
good. This was so good. So I'm gonna bring you all in virtual black stage. So
Later.
Bye.
this is what we do. The Brownsville Minute again is about sharing resources, information. This was just one of many that is to come regarding specifically about the space of mental health. As you heard, there were shared experiences, personal experiences that were shared, and we were glad and hope that you have gotten something out of this. Again, please like, share, follow the Brownsville Minute. We are on YouTube, Facebook, and you can watch us there live or on replay. And I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us, to share, and also to support our ambassadors and our future leaders. So, on that note, talk to you soon. And thank you for joining the Brownsville Minute.
I tried to stand tall, but I never stood a chance. How selfish of me to want them to see me as I am.
I'm over this, man.
I can see the envy from under the mask they're in. How could I expect the pat on the back in a place they wanted to stab
What are
me?
you talking about specifically?
Why do I wish temporary feelings could last again? Why does my future need me to refer to the past again? Naysayers checking in by the minute. It's eating up in my time. And then they always need me to paint a picture after I draw the line. I'm sorry. I drifted from the question.
No problem at all.
Therapy is new for me. I don't think I've ever had a conversation that I felt included me.
Well, that's why we're
It's
here.
like we define things that exist without meaning. But getting back to your question, you asked, what am I thinking?
Yes.
I think so freely as I stare at this ceiling. I think the poison replaced what's meant for healing. I think depression is on the other side of elevating. I think depression hides inside those that are celebrating.
I can see that.
I think the bars that we're rapping are building our own cage. I think my father never thought about me. And what do I feel? I think rage. I think everyone around me can hear what I'm thinking, so I never blink once or think twice about over drinking.
Let's calm down.
I think
Let's
it's
settle
humble
down.
of me to say that I'm the greatest. I
There's
think
nothing
so
wrong with
much of
being
me,
confident.
but I'm taught to never say it. I think my identity exists with multiple borders, but when they can't understand it, it's labeled a disorder.
I understand.
I
But
think the
let's
media
calm
and my
down.
social life are at a point of no return. I think they're entitled to just people that never even learn to earn.
Mr. Calm down.
I think truth
Calm down.
is one thing that I know.
Let me ask you this question.
If everything you think is true, how will you ever grow? I never thought about that. Probably for my own protection. It's funny how a view of yourself can be shattered by your own reflection.